Sanders finally makes his kind of somewhat full return back to practice. As we knew yesterday, he was severely limited with his oblique injury, but today, I don't know if you could see, it's probably on your screen right now, he's dropping dimes. He's feeling nice. He's feeling good. So
how does a rookie quarterback who hasn't played a single NFL regular season snap already have veterans nervous, coaches scrambling, and the media spinning into overload? No tantrums, no drama, no off-field distractions, just one calm return from injury. And suddenly, Shedeur Sanders is the most talked about name in Browns camp. They said he was just hype, just Prime's kid, riding legacy waves. Just another flashy name who'd fizzle when real pressure hit. But what happened when he stepped back on the field? He didn't talk. He didn't pose. He didn't post some cryptic message on social media. He just started throwing absolute darts, one perfect pass at a time. And the moment that ball left his hand, that spiral, that tight window fade, that impossible throw down the sideline.
When you were looking at both of these quarterbacks coming out, which quarterback did you prefer just as a football player?
Shedeur. And mostly, much bigger body.
Something changed. Not just on the field, in the building, across the league. Quietly but undeniably, Shedeur Sanders went from maybe one day to, wait, is he the one right now? But if you think this rise has been welcomed with open arms, you haven't been paying attention. Because this story, it isn't about press clippings or media spin. It's about a young quarterback building something real while the league tries to look the other way. And the crazier part? They still don't want to admit what's happening right in front of them. Stick around, because we're breaking down the comeback they're trying to deny. And the rookie who's making the NFL nervous for all the wrong reasons. Not long ago, Shedeur Sanders wasn't making headlines for perfect spirals. He was recovering quietly from an injury that could have derailed everything.
It's my turn, and I just gotta take advantage of it. I feel like, today I did some good, some bad. And I know moving forward, I won't make the same mistakes twice. So.
An oblique strain. The kind that messes with the very thing quarterbacks rely on most: core strength, balance, rotation, and timing. It doesn't just take away your ability to throw it, messes with your confidence, your rhythm, your identity on the field. For some guys, that kind of hit sends them back to square one, but not Shedeur. The second he returned to Browns camp, there was no wobble, no warm-up period, no hesitation. It was like he'd never left, only now he looked even better. His release? Faster. His movement in the pocket? Cleaner. His timing with receivers? Scary, accurate. It wasn't flashy, and it didn't need to be. It was intentional, controlled, efficient. Then came the throw that throw.
I think he's not going to get as many starts as I would like, but I think Shedeur wins at 2 games for the Browns this year.
Deep corner fade. Receiver barely gets separation. The coverage is tight. The window is closing fast. Most rookies would hesitate. Most veterans wouldn't even try it. But Shedeur let it fly. Clean spiral. Perfect touch. Dropped it in like he was tossing a coin into a soda can from across the field. The sideline went silent. Then came the gasps. Then the reporters scrambled. Social lit up. But Shedeur? He walked back to the huddle like it was routine. It wasn't just about the throw. It was about everything it represented. A rookie quarterback, fresh off rehab, dropping a pro-level pass into a window that barely existed not to prove a point, but because that's who he is, that's where he's at. And more importantly, that's where he picked back up. See, most comebacks are loud. Motivational speeches, highlight montages, all eyes on the underdog. Shedeur's comeback wasn't loud. It was steady, poised, precise. He didn't demand attention. He earned it in silence. But here's the twist. While his game was speaking volumes, the media and parts of the league were already changing the narrative, already shifting the story away from what was happening on the field. Because apparently, playing great football isn't enough when you don't fit the mold they're used to. And that's when the noise started. You'd think that kind of performance coming back from injury, dominating reps, earning respect without needing the spotlight would be the headline. But this is the NFL we're talking about. And when a young black quarterback starts checking every box that fans, coaches, and critics claim they're looking for, suddenly the conversation shifts. Not to his throws, not to his timing, not to how he's outperforming older, more experienced quarterbacks on their third chance. Nope. The headlines became, why is he smiling so much? Why does he act like he belongs already? Is Shedeur too confident for a rookie? Let that sink in. While Shedeur was out there dropping layered timing routes and moving through progressions like a seasoned vet, the conversation was stuck on his demeanor, his posture, his vibe. As if walking onto the field with poise is somehow offensive, as if taking practice seriously, but still smiling, signals arrogance instead of preparation. It's a familiar pivot, one we've seen before, because when certain players show swagger, it's called leadership. But when others do it, players like Shedeur, it becomes a red flag. The NFL loves to say, just let your game speak, but when Shedeur does exactly that, they scramble to change the subject. They're uncomfortable with how easy he's making it look. See, they expected him to struggle, to shrink under the pressure of his name, to step into camp and get exposed. Maybe that's why some people are so eager to move the conversation away from football. Because the football? It's too clean, too correct, too precise. It doesn't give the haters any ammo. That's when the questions start getting ridiculous. Is he too polished? Is he just a media product? Is he more brand than baller? And suddenly, Shedeur isn't being evaluated like a quarterback. He's being picked apart like a personality profile. But why? Because if he was any other rookie, quiet, humble, insecure, you wouldn't hear a word. You'd get paragraphs about potential, about tools to develop. But when you actually show up with the tools, the polish, and the demeanor, somehow, you're a problem. And let's be real, if his name was Shane Davidson, quarterback from Alabama, they'd be hyping that perfect fade route like it was a Heisman moment. Instead, they're dissecting his heartbeat like it's a threat. But the thing is, none of that changes what's coming next. Everyone wants to talk about the shadow. Of course he's confident his dad is Deion Sanders. Of course the media loves him. His name sells clicks. Let's see what he does without the last name. It's exhausting. And more than that, it's lazy. Yes, Shedeur is the son of Deion Sanders. That much is undeniable. Coach Prime, NFL Hall of Famer. Arguably one of the most electrifying athletes to ever touch a football field. That legacy isn't a shadow, it's a spotlight. And spotlights don't just shine, they burn. Because when you're the child of greatness, you're not just playing against your opponents, you're playing against a myth. Every step becomes a comparison. Every mistake, amplified. Every win, discounted. And every shred of progress, written off as privilege. No one ever says it out loud, but here's the truth. Having Deion as your dad doesn't make it easier, it makes it almost impossible. You don't get the benefit of the doubt. You don't get called a hard worker or a surprise standout. You get called a storyline. You're accused of being manufactured, packaged, pre-written, as if Shedeur didn't grind through those cold practices, didn't take every hit, didn't recover from injury, fix his mechanics, and improve his field vision on his own. As if his last name is the one in the huddle delivering throws across the middle on 3rd and long. But here's the thing. It's not Deion in that pocket. It's not Deion reading the coverage and dropping back behind a line that might crumble any second. It's not Deion taking the reps, answering the questions, staying late at camp to build chemistry with backups the media barely covers. That's Shedeur. That's his process, his tape, his voice in the huddle, his growing respect in the locker room. And maybe that's what makes some people uncomfortable, because Shedeur isn't running from the legacy, he's rewriting it. He's not playing scared, not watering himself down to seem humble, not distancing himself from his father to earn validation from people who were never going to believe in him anyway. He's simply owning who he is fully, completely, authentically. And in a league that's obsessed with molding young players into something they're not, that's dangerous, because you can't control someone who already knows who he is. There's a pattern in the NFL that nobody wants to talk about, but everybody sees. When a white quarterback comes into the league with confidence, it's leadership. When he has swagger, it's called moxie. When he makes a bold statement, people say, that's the kind of fire you want under center. But when it's a black quarterback who's calm, poised, smiling during drills, walking into camp like he owns the room, the entire tone changes. Somehow, it becomes a problem. He's too polished. He needs to tone it down. He should earn it before he acts like a star. And if you don't believe it's real, just look at how Shedeur Sanders is being talked about. He hasn't missed a snap in camp. His reads are sharp, his accuracy is elite, his mechanics are ahead of schedule. And yet, what's the narrative? Is he overhyped? Is the media making it harder for him to succeed? How will he handle adversity when it finally hits? Notice the shift: he hasn't failed yet, but they're treating him like he already did. Let's be honest. If Shedeur Sanders were named Brad Whitaker and played for Georgia, we'd be seeing slow-motion replays of his fade routes with orchestral music in the background. SportsCenter would be calling him the future of football. But because he smiles during reps or walks off the field looking like he belongs, people start questioning his character instead of evaluating his tape. There's a long history of this. Quarterbacks like Cam Newton, Lamar Jackson, Jameis Winston, and even Russell Wilson went through it at different points. If they showed emotion, it was called arrogance. If they were quiet, they were accused of lacking fire. If they were flashy, it was seen as compensation. If they weren't, they were too reserved. It's a loop that black quarterbacks are forced to navigate, while others simply play football. Shedeur is experiencing the same loop, but he's approaching it differently. He's not playing into the drama. He's not clapping back at critics. He's not trying to prove or disprove anything. He's just leading, executing, elevating. And that might be the part that's most threatening of all. Because when you can't tear down the skill set, and you can't attack the personality, and the flash doesn't exist, you run out of reasons to discredit him. And suddenly, you're forced to admit that you just weren't ready for a quarterback who checks every box and still doesn't fit the one inside your head. Shedeur Sanders is showing joy and dominance, control and swagger, fun and fundamentals. And he's doing it all without begging for approval from an industry still deciding whether young, confident, black quarterbacks are allowed to be the face of a franchise. Spoiler alert, they are, and he already is. For all the noise, for all the debates, for all the think pieces, there's one place where no narrative survives the practice field. And that's where Shedeur Sanders has quietly been putting everyone on notice. It's not just that he's making throws. Plenty of guys can throw a tight spiral in warm-ups. It's how he's doing it, with timing, precision, anticipation. He's not just reacting, he's predicting. Seeing the play unfold before it happens and putting the ball where the receiver's going to be, not where he is. That's not luck, that's not hype, that's quarterbacking. He's showing the kind of rhythm most rookies take a year or two to find if they ever do. His cadence is confident. His command of the huddle, immediate. Veterans don't blink when he calls the play. Rookies follow his lead. It's subtle, but it's powerful. Because in a league obsessed with measurable traits, there are still a few things you can't fake, and presence is one of them. Even more telling? Shedeur's been staying after reps, running plays with second-string receivers, guys whose names rarely trend, the fringe roster players, the overlooked ones, and yet he's working with them, reading their body language, testing timing, building trust. That's leadership you don't coach. That's chemistry most quarterbacks don't bother with until mid-season when it's too late. And in the film room, he's earning respect fast. Coaches have said he's asking the kinds of questions you don't hear from rookies. He's not just memorizing plays, he's deconstructing the logic, challenging coverage assumptions, asking why, not just what. That's the kind of mental edge that separates the solid from the special. Then there's the pocket presence. You can't teach it. Some quarterbacks freeze when the pressure comes. Others panic. Shedeur adapts. You'll see him glide, not scramble, slide left while keeping his eyes downfield, reset his feet in a blink. It's like there's a built-in GPS in his cleats. Calm, measured movement under chaos, another rare trait that's already becoming a habit. And still, no showboating, no over-the-top celebrations, no I told you so moments. He throws a dart, adjusts his helmet, moves to the next rep, and it's starting to dawn on people. Shedeur Sanders isn't having a few good days. He's setting a pattern, a standard. One no one expected to see this early, least of all from a rookie just coming off injury. So while analysts are still comparing resumes and speculating about his NFL readiness, he's making that argument irrelevant, one elite rep at a time. Because the difference with Shedeur is, you don't have to wait for the game film. He's already putting it on tape. Let's not dance around it. The Browns are stuck, caught between what they see in practice and what they're too scared to admit out loud. Every day, Shedeur Sanders shows he's ready. Every rep, every read, every quiet command in the huddle screams Cubone energy. And yet the coaching staff keeps punting on the decision. Still evaluating, still watching, still waiting. But waiting for what, exactly? Do they want a preseason miracle, a written invitation from the league office, a signed permission slip from history saying, yes, it's okay to trust the kid? Because the longer they delay, the worse it looks. Every time head coach Kevin Stefanski gets asked about the quarterback competition, it's the same vague scripted drivel. We're giving everyone an equal chance. We're not there yet. Not there yet? What more do you need to see? A rookie with a repaired core is dismantling expectations, stacking consistent reps, and commanding teammates like a 5-year vet. Meanwhile, the so-called competition is limping through reads and flinching behind the same O-line Shedeur is thriving behind. But instead of leaning into the momentum, the Browns are hesitating, playing it safe, clinging to process like it's going to save them from another lost season. Why? Because naming Shedeur, the starter, would mean owning that the guy they weren't counting on, the one with more questions than starts, just outperformed every plan they thought they had. And let's be honest, the Browns have a history of choosing the plan over the proof. This is a franchise known for wasting potential, for ignoring the obvious and overcomplicating the necessary. You've seen the jersey, the graveyard of quarterbacks past. How long are we going to pretend this team knows how to identify, nurture, and back real talent at that position? Because here, Shedeur is not asking for favoritism, not leaning on his name, just delivering. Every single day. And still, the coaches stare at clipboards and analysis sheets like they're trying to read tea leaves. It's not strategy, it's fear. Because if they name him the starter and he fails, the backlash lands on them. But here's the thing, no one seems to realize doing nothing is a decision too. And right now, indecision is costing the Browns more than just time. It's costing them trust. Players notice, fans notice, hell, the whole league notices. You've got a quarterback who's ready, who's hot, who's lifting the room, and the franchise is too scared to ride the wave, afraid to break the mold. Afraid to admit the guy they didn't plan to depend on is already the best option in the building. That's not caution. That's sabotage. At some point, the tape becomes louder than the titles. And right now, the Browns can't pretend they don't see what's happening because everyone else does. You can feel it in the locker room. You can see it on the practice field. You can hear it in the silence that follows every one of Shedeur's reps. The truth? The team already knows who the guy is. Veterans are nodding when he talks in the huddle. Rookie receivers are staying late just to run routes with him. Even defensive backs, the ones trying to make a name for themselves, are starting to back off the trash talk. Why? Because Shedeur is commanding respect without even asking for it. That's not hype. That's not branding. That's leadership. And the numbers? They're catching up. His efficiency in situational drills is climbing. Red zone reps, crisp. 2-minute drills, clean. Every measurable the Browns claim to love they're already seeing from a rookie they didn't expect to be this good, this early. And that's where the paralysis becomes impossible to justify. You can't preach performance, then ignore the guy performing. At some point, sticking with the safe pick becomes the risk. Delaying what's obvious becomes its own kind of failure. Shedeur isn't asking for a crown, he's just stacking evidence. And the longer the Browns try to pretend otherwise, the more obvious it gets. They're not protecting their future, they're stalling it. Let's zoom out for a second. This isn't just about a quarterback battle. This isn't just about training camp stats or who's making cleaner throws during joint practices. This is about something much bigger, something Cleveland has never truly figured out. A franchise quarterback. That title means more than arm strength. It's about identity, direction, a leader you can build around for years, someone the team believes in, and more importantly, someone the fans follow. And for decades, the Browns have been chasing that. You've seen the jersey, name after name crossed out, season after season wasted, brief flashes of hope that always end the same way: confusion, collapse, and regret. Now here comes a kid, fresh off injury, raw by NFL standards, but already doing the one thing none of those other names could: changing the energy. And still, the franchise hesitates. Still acting like identifying the obvious requires more time, more tape, more hesitation. But make no mistake that hesitation isn't harmless. It's history repeating itself. Shedeur is doing everything you'd want from a future Cubone. He's outworking veterans. He's bringing chemistry to every unit. He's showing resilience, intelligence, leadership day after day. Yet, somehow, the reward is more doubt? Meanwhile, other rookies around the league are being handed starting reps on trust alone. Forget the flashy faces on billboards. Forget the guys doing more talking than throwing. Shedeur's not asking anyone to hand it to him. He's putting in the work. Quietly, relentlessly, professionally. And the Browns can't afford to act like they don't see it. Because this is how it always slips away. By overthinking. By playing it safe. by treating progress like a problem and waiting for the right time that never comes. The truth is, there is a risky move here. But it's not starting Shedeur. It's starting anyone else. It's letting this moment pass. It's watching a leader rise in your own building and asking him to wait. And let's be clear, Shedeur Sanders has earned more than patience. He's earned opportunity. And if the Browns don't seize it now, they may find themselves, once again, rewriting that same tragic script. Another rookie they misread, another season wasted, and another name added to the graveyard of quarterbacks who could have been something more. This isn't just a test for Shedeur, it's a test for Cleveland. Do they finally break the cycle? Or are they getting ready to fumble the future again?